Okay, hold on. Now can you hear me? Am I having technical issues? Okay. Y'all, I am going to hang this live up and we are going to continue this in 10 minutes. It looks like I may be having some sort of issue with my computer. Okay, Joe, I'm going to hang up with you and I'm going to call you in a few minutes.
Okay, no problem. Just to let you know, I had this similar issues when I last week, and
Oh, Charles says he can hear me.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, can everybody hear me or no? Yes. It took a bit. I can hear you. And what was it when you had the issue, Joe?
All I had to do was go in and set up my microphone. It was just incorrectly set up.
Well, I think I might have accidentally pressed the mute button, and now it's unmuted on my microphone. That wouldn't have been the issue that you and I were having. Okay, so let's get into this, you guys. It looks like people can hear now. So I was apologizing for the wet hair. Crazy times. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. We are talking today about liability and insurance. We've got Joe with, Joe, tell us the name of your company.
Insure Fitness Group.
Insure Fitness Group. And you guys are headquartered in Florida or you're located in Florida?
Both. Well, we are headquartered and located in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, just outside of Jacksonville.
Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. So Joe is going to tell us about policies in a few minutes. And first, I'm going to go over some basic rundown about liability. So let's talk about the liability that you have before, during, and after class and what you can do to kind of mitigate that liability. And then let's talk about insurance policies. Is that good with everybody? If you've got questions, please throw them in the comments like we always do, and we will circle back around to them. If I don't get to them during the broadcast, I will get to them at afterward and try to answer them either by direct message or by adding to the comments. So thanks for being here. Let's talk about liability. Okay, so the first subject that I've got is the waiver. So a lot of us are looking for ways to get a waiver signed, and that is really going to vary based on, and Joe, if you have anything to add, please chime in whenever. You're the expert here.
Sure.
All right. So a lot of people have had questions about waivers. It's really going to depend on where you are broadcasting your classes. So if you are broadcasting via Facebook Live, it's really hard there's not going to be a way that I'm aware of where you can not let somebody in if they haven't signed a waiver. So even if you were to, let's say, take pre-registrations and then email them a form or something like that, there's not really a way to ensure that only people who have signed your waiver are participating in that class. And if you guys know of ways, please contribute them. This is an open dialogue and we are all learning this new territory together. So Facebook Live, not really a way. All you can do is give your disclaimer at the beginning of class. And we're going to talk more about beginning, during, and end of class in a few minutes. There are other platforms that we are using that do allow us to take pre-registration. And so when you are able to do pre-registration, you want to include the waiver as part of your pre-registration. There is a form at IDEA that you can grab and you can email to people. There are also other forms out there online. Joe, when someone gets insurance with you, do they get any kind of documentation like that they would be able to send out?
we don't have a waiver on our site that we recommend. First off, we do recommend the use of waivers. Waivers don't always hold up in a court of law, and really that's a good thing in a way. If real gross negligence happened on the, on behalf of the personal trainer or fitness instructor, it's important for the law to kick in at that time. So a waiver is always a good idea that can potentially stop certain lawsuits, but it's always a good idea to have an insurance policy for something that could occur.
Beautiful. Okay, that is important information. So what Joe is saying is that a waiver is a good thing to have, but it's not going to take the place of your credentials and your good judgment. Does that sound about right?
Correct.
All right. And so collecting a waiver is important if possible. What do you recommend about collecting health information, Joe?
Well, that's always a good idea. I mean, to me, collecting information, getting an understanding of your audience, your customer, I think is not only crucial to your training program, but, certainly crucial to the aspect of safety and various elements like that. So I think that's always a good idea. And certainly not every personal trainer does go through those processes, but I think some of the best ones do.
And I think this could be a great place for us to really help each other out. If there are people out there watching that have a health information collection method or sheet that they prefer, I would love for you to put that link into the group and just share it with everybody, because I think sometimes the stumbling block is just creating the form. I mean, we all know there are free ways out there on the internet, Google Sheets, forms through your website, a million different ways to collect the information. But sometimes it's formulating the questions that can be a little bit of a barrier. And so let's share those resources with each other. All right, so once you are in class, whether you have collected a waiver or whether you have not collected a waiver, I would suggest that you announce which levels of fitness is appropriate for. So before class, you're planning out what you're going to be doing with class, and I want you to really think through, who is this not appropriate for? And let's go ahead and say that at the beginning of class. My yoga class that I teach at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm teaching a beginner to intermediate level. Now, I know that I have some advanced participants, and the thing about advanced participants is that they know what to do to make a pose harder or to make an exercise harder. And so if I teach at the beginning to intermediate level, I'm keeping it a little bit safer. And I know that my advanced participants do know how to kind of take care of their own workout. That's how they got to the advanced level. So that's kind of my logic behind where I stay in terms of the level of class. And I do say that at the beginning of class, that it's a beginning to intermediate level class. One of the points that I came across when I was researching this topic is that it's going to be, lawsuits do happen. They just do. And so even though we would hope, especially during this time when we are doing whatever we can to just serve our communities, we would hope that lawsuits wouldn't happen. You want to make sure that you're teaching a class that you're qualified to teach. So if someone were to make a claim against you or to sue you, it's going to be really difficult to defend yourself if you don't have the correct credentials. So difficult to defend a claim if you don't have the right credentials. So I would say stick to the classes that you have a current certification in, have lots of experience in, have special expertise in. Joe, anything to add to that?
No, I think that makes complete sense. That's all great, relevant information. Certainly, understanding your credentials, understanding your training, laying out that information for the class. All of that, as somebody in the insurance world, all of that stuff is meaningful to us because all of that adds to the elements of safety and lowers the risk. So I 100% agree with all of this points.
Beautiful. All right. And then we talked a little bit about showing the different levels. So I teach at the beginning to intermediate level, probably more the intermediate level, but I do try to hang back a little. I don't show the advanced options at all. And especially because I'm teaching a yoga class, I don't want to show something that somebody might try and then rip something or fall over. So I'm definitely staying at the beginning to intermediate level. And I know that my pro yogis out there know how to advance that pose. Every once in a while, I might show it. When I'm in person with my yoga class, I'll show them. Advanced options, and we call them my little party tricks. So I might show them bird pose, knowing that they're not going to get into full bird pose, and then we laugh at me when I fall over. So my next card here says, do your due diligence. And so what I'm talking about there is just make sure that the moves that you are teaching in your live sessions or in your virtual sessions are ones that would be recommended. You know, if somebody from ACE was in your class or somebody from IDEA was in your class, would you be okay showing that to them in person? Would you feel confident showing that to a group of 50 participants that are at the level that you have said this class is for? So don't perform counter-indicated movements. I'm going back to the step days when I used to teach step, and I'm thinking about times when we might have jumped over the step, you know, maybe forward or back or side to side, and how some organizations said that was counterindicated. Some organizations said, you know, yes, you can do that. We do more of those types of movements now with HIIT classes and with CrossFit being popular. There's a lot more that we will do in class that we wouldn't have done back in the 90s or even early 2000s, because in the 90s and the early 2000s, we were really trained to keep things like very middle of the road. And then I almost think that's where things like CrossFit were born out of. People got bored and tired of those same movements and they wanted more. And so then you saw the rise of some of the kind of higher intensity formats. And that's really where that stuff came from. You guys are going to see the kitty cat again today. She's going to get needy here any minute. It's like a petting zoo over in my house. I've got all the pets just staring at me while I'm trying to work. So during class, let's talk about cueing. And this is kind of just a basic best practice, but it's going to become more important when we're doing these virtual sessions. And that is, I want you to tell your participant what to do and don't tell them what not to do. So I like to think of this like a toddler. If you've got a toddler in front of you and you've got, a selection of cookies, and you say, okay, eat the Oreo, they're going to eat the Oreo. If you say, don't eat the chocolate chip, that doesn't necessarily lead them to the Oreo. There's still 8 other options that they could also choose from. And it's the same with movement. If you say, don't let your knees come forward, they might point their knees way out in a squat, or they might bring their knees together. There are a lot of other things they could still do if you say, don't do this. So instead you say, track your knees over your toes. Then they've got one option. That is the only thing that is correct. And that keeps you safe in terms of you have given that direction. Along the same lines, think about giving that same direction in several ways. Maybe you turn your body so that they can see from the side, and then you turn your body to the front so that they can see from the front what that looks like. Even so, a lot of our participants, as we know from being in the gym, do not have that kinesthetic awareness. So they can't look at you and do a movement just like you based on just kind of feeling it in their brains. So think about giving them cues, feeling cues. When you're squatting, you want to feel it in your quads, in your hamstring, in your butt. You don't want to feel it in the front of your knees. If you feel it in the front of your knees, you need to push your weight back. So those kind of things. When I'm teaching that movement in yoga, we call it intense pose. I tell them to lift their toes off the floor, and that's how they know they're getting enough weight toward the back of their foot and it's not all in the front of their foot. So cueing, you want to make sure that you're telling your participants what to do. You want to show them from different angles, and you want to tell them in several different ways using positive language. Do this, not telling them don't do this, and then using maybe where you're going to feel it in your body, maybe visualizations. Just give them several ways to look at that correct movement. All right, so during and after your classes, you are going to become more liable if you are giving advice that is outside of your scope of expertise. So sometimes this comes up in the group. People will start talking about whether or not instructors and personal trainers are okay to give nutritional advice. And I don't know if that is a great example for right now when we're talking about virtual classes, but I do see the issue coming up where you might be asked for advice that might be slightly outside of your scope of practice. And so you want to really draw that line and be very careful, and then defer to those who are experts in that area. So if somebody is giving you or asking nutritional questions, defer them to an expert in that area. Joe, do you have anything to add or say about that one?
Well, and that's an interesting topic as well, because of course nutrition is a part of fitness. It's all one big thing. If you can't do one without the other. So really, it's almost expected for that type of dialogue to occur. There are certain programs that actually, certain liability insurances that have nutritional counseling as a part of the coverage, and actually we're working to get that added to ours. It typically adds a little bit of cost to the coverage, but it's an important component if you are giving that nutritional advice.
So if you feel that you are an expert in that field, if you've got the correct training, add that to your coverage. Would that be a correct statement, Joe?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. It's a good idea. I mean, that's something that really has fewer claims than most other components of it. It's not. It's certainly not one of the riskier portions. But you're right. I mean, there is risk to it. You give somebody some advice, they have an allergic reaction or whatever may occur. I mean, there's something that could happen there. So it is a recommended coverage if that's a component to what you do.
Beautiful. All right, and so those are the topics that I had jotted down that I wanted to cover in terms of liability. Any questions or things that I've missed, please drop them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to continue to cover this topic. But really, what we're trying to do here is just ensure that if there are any injuries, that they were not avoidable injuries. And so when we talk about safety, when we talk about cueing, that reminds me, I did have one that I wanted you to cover in the beginning of class, and my notes got out of order. So one more. Let's go backward. In the beginning of class, talk about shoes. Which shoes should they be wearing for class? This could be a little sticky with virtual classes because you can't see them. If you were in the gym and somebody walked in work boots, you could right away say whether or not it's appropriate for them to be able to wear work boots in class. So maybe for body pump, they can wear work boots, but if you're teaching, HIIT class or step, then no boots. So tell them what shoes you want them to be wearing. And again, tell them in do terms, not in don't terms. These are the shoes that are appropriate for this class. Carpet versus hardwood. So you want to tell them whether or not, and it might be counterindicated to do this class on carpet. If you've got a lot of lateral movement in your class, like Zumba or other dance classes will have a lot of lateral movement, you may not want people doing that on carpet, and it might be something that you want to cover in class. Maybe just remind them of how much clear space you want them to have. So if they need 6 feet, go ahead and say 6 feet so that they clear that out and they're not tripping over kids' toys. I think it would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, I think it would be really hard to hold you liable if they tripped over one of their kids' toys taking a Zumba class, but it could happen.
Well, correct. The liability claim would always come down to who's negligent. So if it's something that the personal trainer was negligent for, then there's legal recourse to file a claim or to file a lawsuit against the personal trainer. Certainly every scenario would have to be looked over, but I wouldn't expect if somebody tripped over a toy in their own living room that the personal trainer could be held liable in any way, if that makes sense.
Beautiful. And then cover what equipment you do want them to have for class. So if it's yoga, you want them to have a mat and a towel. I always include a bottle of water. Sorry, y'all. I always include a bottle of water when I make that statement at the beginning of class. I also, at the beginning of class, do give just a verbal disclaimer saying you're doing this at your own volition. And I know we covered that earlier in the week. Okay, so we've brought Joe here today because he is going to tell us about getting insured. And so maybe I'm just going to turn it over to you for a few minutes. Joe, would that work?
Absolutely.
All right,
sure.
Beautiful.
Well, the first thing I want to mention, since we're on the topic, since we're all kind of going through a similar scenario globally, we as a company, Insure Fitness Group, several years ago when we built our program, we made sure when we discussed with our underwriters that we covered live online training, and that was through fitness, through yoga. Not all insurance policies do. So I just want to recommend to anybody who currently has an insurance policy, or if you're shopping for one as a personal trainer or fitness instructor, especially now, just ask the carrier, ask the underwriter, ask the agent if it does cover live online training, because that's an important component. Right now, a lot of folks aren't able to do the face-to-face training. They're moving to online. So having that component of the coverage is important, and not all of them do. So make sure you ask that question.
And you mentioned live online training. Are you also talking about pre-recorded, or is that different?
No, that is different. So a lot of liability policies will cover the live sessions, as in live face-to-face sessions. You're both in the same room. Not all of them will cover the online training. Ours does. Now, online training is the only type of training, live online training is the only type of training that we'd be able to cover, because there is somebody overseeing there's somebody overseeing what's going on. So there's a trainer there, can give real-time information to give instruction on what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, don't do that, do that. Or, of course, if somebody got hurt, action could be taken. Hey, you need to make a change here. Or, worst case scenario, they need to pick up the phone and call an ambulance, or whatever the action might be. But, you can't mitigate the risk of somebody, watching a video potentially by themselves in a basement. They hit their head. There's no interaction that can be taken. So you can't really offer that coverage for pre-recorded video. But for live online training, it's important to know whether your insurance covers that or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and can I add one question in there, because it's something that's come up earlier in the week. What is the difference between a live class where I can see my participants, like on Zoom, versus a live class where I cannot see my participants, like on Facebook Live?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's funny because right now we've gotten a couple of similar questions to that. So we've actually put it into our underwriters to get written confirmation on exactly how that component works. So I had somebody ask, what about if we were giving, some coaching over the phone and something happened? So before I give a real yes or no answer, I wanted to get some clarity from our underwriters. As I understand it, because it's still a live session and there's things, in real-time information that can be exchanged, it should all be covered. But again, I'm getting full clarity from our underwriters, and as soon as we do, I'll make sure I reach back out to you so we can post that information as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Joe, are you part of our group? I don't think you are.
I don't think I am either. Right prior to this call, I was trying to do a quick search, and I wasn't able to find the group. But I definitely would like to join if I'm able to.
I will definitely make an exception and let you in. So we are all instructors and trainers, but I think that your expertise, especially during this time, would be really valuable. So I will definitely put you in there.
Thank you, and
Making myself
and certainly I'll make myself available to any questions, any advice that comes up, and we're always very palms up here. Certainly, we do sell insurance, but I mean, what we want to do is help the community. So if we're not the right fit, we'll advise you in the right direction to go.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. So tell me, who are you the right fit for, and in what situations might you send them off to someone else?
Sure. Well, so we're mostly geared towards the independent contractor, personal trainer, or group fitness instructor, also yoga and Pilates. Um, so, so for the most part, most of our customers are independent contractors who either do freelance work on their own or work at maybe 2 or 3 locations. We do have some personal trainers, indoor fitness instructors that work at a gym, and they may be covered by the gym's policy as well. But they have their own coverage because, number one, there's extended additional coverages which are meaningful to the personal trainer and fitness instructor, and also if they did some moonlighting or did some work on the side, they're covered for all that because our policy, of course, is mobile and follows them anywhere where they go. So really, our kind of target, or our marquee, or somebody who is right for our insurance is if you are an independent professional, if you do maybe work in a couple locations, you work in the United States. Those are some of the major components to who we'd be a good fit with. We cover right now personal trainers and fitness instructors. So athletic trainers are outside of our scope of coverage. We are building a program for them specifically, but that would be one example of somebody who today we'd refer to somebody else.
Okay. So it sounds like group fitness instructors, personal trainers within the United States is a good fit for your company. An athletic trainer, somebody that would work at like a high school with teams and things like that is not such a good fit.
Correct. So correct. Somebody who's a sports trainer teaching an athlete to play a professional sport, or yes, correct, a coach. Now again, we're building a program for that, but there is it is considered a separate designation, a separate industry, separate practice. So it is a separate type of insurance.
Beautiful. How much can you tell us about cost?
Sure. Well, it's actually pretty cut and dry. When we came to market with this program, we very much we had the goal of being the most comprehensive coverage for the lowest price, and really we were able to accomplish that. So retail rate, our program is only $169 for the entire year. And that comes with, let me kind of tell you what that comes with. It comes with your professional liability coverage, which is it's like the malpractice insurance. If somebody gets hurt during a session, that's covered up to $1 million per occurrence, or up to $3 million per year. We also cover general liability. General liability is more the slip and fall insurance. And what's interesting is we get a lot more claims for general liability than professional liability. And in a way, that's a good thing. That means that personal the folks that we insure are good at what they do. They're not hurting people in a general sense. But it's really hard to foresee that freak accident, that slip and fall. So general liability coverage is an important piece as well. So we cover both of those. We also also include product coverage. So that's also covered up to $1 million per occurrence. So if you use a product or an oil or lotion or something and it causes a burn or an allergic reaction, that's covered. Ours includes $100,000 of rental damage. So if you're renting a space, and this is an important thing too, because a lot of times a personal trainer will rent a space to do a session. If you're renting a space, that space gets damaged, it's covered up to $100,000. Ours also includes $1,000 of stolen or damaged equipment insurance. So anything you're using in the scope of session, some equipment, some either like an iPhone, a computer, obviously weights, whatever it may be, is stolen or damaged, that's covered up to $1,000. And then identity theft. Ours, we include $25,000 of identity theft coverage. And again, the reason that's important is we realize that a lot of folks, once they went through the certification process and their information kind of became a part of the universe, they became susceptible to cyber attacks. So that's another component that's really been meaningful to our audience. So those are the insurance components to our offering, which is again at about $169 a year. We also have several member benefits that come with the program. Very recently, and kind of in response to what's going on currently, we offer our program now comes with access to telemedicine. And I want to say that, and I want to highlight that because a lot of folks have been very, very happy that we were able to add that at this time. And what that is basically if they're interested in it, for $9.99 a month, they can get access to live online sessions with a doctor. There's a $10 copay, I believe, attached to that, but it's very inexpensive type of coverage that can really help them right now if they maybe don't have health insurance, or while they're quarantined can't go see a doctor. Does that make sense?
Nice. So as part of being insured with you, they can purchase kind of a little add-on that allows them to have live sessions with a doctor for a $10 copay.
Correct. We were very fortunate that in the last few months we were acquired by Arthur J. Gallagher, which is the fourth largest insurance broker in the world. So really, the way I always say this is, one night we went to bed with one product. We had this liability insurance, and it was a great product and program, but we woke up the next day with access to a suite of member benefits that would have taken us years to negotiate, as well as access to an insurance marketplace that we never were able to access before. So also this ownership by Arthur J. Gallagher has really done nothing but strengthen our product and immediately allowed us to offer components to our customers that they didn't have access to before, including low-cost health insurance options, dental and vision, as well as, again, some of these other member benefits like discounted laptop computers and office supplies, things of that nature.
All right, beautiful. And at some point before the end of this, please make sure that you put a link to your offering in the comments so that everyone's got access to that.
I sure will. In fact, as I mentioned, our program is $169 a year. To really kind of help the community, a lot of folks that are trying to move from face-to-face to online training, we are offering just a $20 discount to the community. And I will put the link there, but it's insurefitness.com. What is it? Sorry, I had it right here. Oh yes, it's insurefitness.com. / I am so sorry.
I put you on the spot with that one.
You did. I had it written down, but of course I've moved my notes because I always walk. Oh, it's insurefitness.com / live stream offer. Insurefitness.com / live stream offer. In fact, if you go to insurefitness.com, you'll see it pop up right on that page. And it's basically all it is a $20 discount we're offering to the community right now in hopes to offset some of the financial challenges people are going through.
Thank you for that. That is wonderful information.
You're welcome.
So I've got 2 questions that have come in while we are covering this information. Melissa Merkel is asking, you mentioned that your insurance doesn't cover recorded classes. What can we do to protect ourselves when teaching recorded classes?
Well, that's another question that's come up a lot lately, and I'm glad we're tackling this because I think there's a kind of a misunderstanding behind the liability on what happens under these recorded classes. So a lot of, if you think about it, you're watching a YouTube video. Can you sue the person if you decide to mimic what goes on in that video? There's a big question mark there. It's a very rare type of occurrence. Where I'm going with this is I don't think there's as much liability to putting videos out on the internet as people believe. Actually getting coverage for that type of risk would be very, very difficult. If I'm giving advice on it, if you're doing these live sessions, of course, often recorded videos, and you're worried that somebody might get hurt and then you might get sued, my best advice would be to go to a local agent, tell them exactly that, and then have them look into the types of insurances they can access to build a program that would offer coverage for that. It's very unique. It's very different. It's not part of any of the normal insurances you see in the marketplace, the liability insurances. But a lot of people are worried about it now, so it's a big topic. So I imagine local agents are starting to find ways to offer coverage for that. So that would be my advice.
Beautiful. That's great advice. Thank you. And then Mia Adams asked if you are currently insured and learn that your policy does not cover online streaming, are you then shopping for an addendum or for a new policy? Great question, Mia.
That is a great question. And it really depends on the insurance company. If they're built like ours, it's probably, for the most part, a one-size-fits-all. And what I mean by that is the reason we're able to offer these millions of dollars worth of coverage for this very, very low cost, if you look at it, it's because we've built it as a group policy, much like as if you work for an employer and you're able to access this low-cost health insurance. And it's based on the fact that the insurance company knows X number of people will potentially buy this insurance. So when we built our program, we built it as if we are an association. So we are able to use the economies of scale. We have 60,000, let's say, customers built under our program. That is a scalable number of people that we were able to build a group policy to offer this low-cost insurance. And when you build a policy like that, a lot of times adding or subtracting from it isn't an option. It just is what it is. So you may get the answer, it's just not something we cover. At that time, that's when I would go to a local agent. I would show them my current policy saying, hey, this is what I have. This is what I'm covered for. Here's additionally what I need. How can you complement my current policy with some additional extra insurances? So that could be it. You're right. Step one would be to call your insurance company and see if there is an addendum. If they say no, step two would be to go to a local agent. Step three could be potentially asking them, hey, you don't cover what I'm doing right now. Is there a way for us to cancel with you and let me move to a program that does offer live online? I can't tell you what their answer is going to be, but it's worth asking that question.
Beautiful. I think that's really helpful. Okay, I think we have covered so much here, and we will definitely put some information for you guys and links into the comments. And what else do I want to say about that? I'll get all that information that I can possibly get into the comments. Oh, I do have one other question I jotted down here. So there has been a ton of discussion about music and the proper use of music and the ASCAP and BMI fees that can be imposed. Before I go into this, let me ask this. Teresa's saying by local agent, you mean like the State Farm guy, like whoever's down the street?
Correct. They're typically dialed in, and they're able to access different components that a program administrator like us wouldn't be able to access.
Okay. Beautiful. Gotcha. So whoever has your homeowners or your car or those types of things, you could go to them and get them to advise you or maybe add on to what you've got.
Yeah, go to the person you trust. If they're not the right person, hopefully they can refer you to somebody you trust. But yes, that's what I was suggesting. Go to your local agent, somebody you work with locally.
All right. So we've had a ton of questions about music, a ton of discussion about music. Right now, Muscle Mixes is offering their royalty-free music at a huge discount. I would suggest that everybody go out there and get that. I think the safest thing to do for doing any classes that are either live or pre-recorded is to use the royalty-free music. There's not going to be any chance of any repercussions with that. But let's say, I don't know. Oh, here's a good example. The other day I was teaching yoga and I've got my royalty-free music playing, and all of a sudden another song, a Kenny Chesney song, starts playing off of my playlist. Kenny Chesney is not going to come sue me, most likely. But let's say he did, or, ASCAP came in and said, you had 4 minutes of Kenny Chesney playing. Would there be any implications for your insurance in a situation like that?
Is that question directed to me, Kelly?
Yes.
Gotcha. That would be outside of our scope of coverage. And honestly, I'd probably my best advice, I'd refer you to, and you're friends with Denise over at Music Mixers, who might be able to give you some further advice there.
Yeah.
There are errors and omission coverages that you can get that cover things like that. It's not a typical type of coverage that's needed. So we tried to, because our program is built the way it's built, we tried not to add in these things that most of the audience wouldn't need or want, because then it's going to add additional costs that most folks don't need to pay. So we were very scientific in the things that we added and subtracted from what we were able to offer. So that's just not one of the components that we offer. But that's, again, another thing that I would go to a local agent and say, hey, wanted to, we'll ask it. I just lay out the scenario for them and see if they can help you.
And I think that's a really great point, because the fact is, getting in trouble for using any kind of music, especially right now with the way the ASCAP is waiving fees for live videos and things like that, it would be an outlier that something like that is going to happen. And so, as much as it really concerns us, it really is kind of an outlier that you're going to get dinged on that, especially if you've done your due diligence and done everything that you thought you could do to prevent that from happening.
Yes, it probably. I mean, I think these are all relevant questions. These are all worthy of discussion. I mean, I think the fact that people are thinking of these things ahead of time is just smart business. But unfortunately, there's probably not one insurance policy that's going to cover every single one of these components. So get a good quality, policy like ours that covers the bulk of it, and then these additional components, go talk to a local agent and see how those components would, or how you'd be able to get those covered as well.
Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on with us today. I'm going to cover just a few more items here. Valerie asked the question. She said she's confused by what we mean when we say recorded versus live. So a recorded class would be one that you have, I don't know, taken your phone or a video camera, or you've recorded it using Zoom and then you put it out there. So maybe you're using Steph Silber's platform, FitSwap, and you're selling a series of classes or just a class, and so you put it out there, and then people do it whenever they want to do it. Versus a live class, there are two types of live classes. One where it's just me streaming out the live class, and then one where I can also see the participants, similar to having a video conference. And so a live class would have a little bit more back and forth. People could either type in comments, or we could actually see each other and communicate with each other. And so that's going to be a live class. Now, live classes can also be recorded. My live classes are all on my Facebook page, and people can go do them anytime after the fact, but they were recorded live and people were doing the workout with me at that time. Yeah, and Eileen's saying a recorded class is if you do a video and then download it to YouTube and then email a link to people. So very similar. Okay, y'all. So those of you, I'm going to move on. Joe, thank you so much. This was so helpful. I think everyone got a lot out of it. We got a lot of comments and questions, and I think we've got some really great information here. I'm going to move on and just cover some Fit Pros Connect kind of things. So today is Wednesday, which means the fitprosconnect.com website, our newsletter went out. In that newsletter, we always highlight the articles that have been written that week. And so there are some articles that you can check out in that newsletter if you get it. If you do not get it, go to Fit Pros Connect, pros with an S, fitprosconnect.com, create your profile. That's the directory website that I've been working on. It allows you to list yourself by geography, find other instructors that are near you, write articles, post videos, post photo galleries. There's a lot of options there, and the more instructors we get into that directory, the more options and the more ways we're going to see people using that. So I'm really excited about that website, and I really want to get you guys there. But I wanted to mention, because today is Wednesday, that she says, cute dog. I wanted to mention that on Wednesdays we send out the newsletter. So if you have something you've been thinking about writing and it's maybe too long for the Facebook group, or it's regional specific or something like that, then you go to Fit Pros Connect and you can write articles there. And then that will be highlighted in the newsletter the following Wednesday, whatever the closest Wednesday is. And so it's a good way to get information out to the community. I would love to see some of you guys that are doing live and pre-recorded workouts. I'd love to see you maybe doing a little article about them and putting them out there. And you can also list events in FitPro's directory, and that's really important because as the admin of our group, I can't always accept posts about events because they're regional specific and we are an international group. So if I post a job listing for somebody in Houston, Texas, or if I post something about an event that's happening in Columbia, South Carolina, that's irrelevant to about 99% of our people. Yes, the newsletter is sent to your emails. It's not available through the directory, but all of the content of the newsletter is in the directory. If you just look at the articles, that's what we list, and we list a few other things in there. But I can send it over to you. Send me an email and I'll send it over to you. All right, so I'd love to see you guys there. One other piece of housekeeping. Joe, do you want me to let you go?
Well, that's completely up to you. Sure, I can go. I will just mention that if there are any further questions, I'd be certainly delighted if I'm able to join the group, answer anything in real time, or people can always go to insurefitness.com or call our number. We have licensed agents that are available 65 hours a week to answer questions, to help you along with anything you might need, and that's 1-800-379-7799.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you having me on, and please let me know if there's any way I can help.
All right. I certainly will. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
So the only other thing I wanted to mention to you is that we are running that contest right now. If you invite people, the instructors from all of your sub lists, whatever you've got, invite your instructor and personal trainer friends to the group. You will get credit for each instructor or personal trainer that is admitted into the group, and the person with the most new members coming in will win a head mic set from Fitness Mics. So we're really excited about that. It's the first time I've ever been able to run a contest like this, and I'm so excited to do it. Right now, Shelly Hinson is the leader. I don't know how many she has, but when I woke up this morning, there were 27 member requests for the group. I usually have 2 or 3. So Shelly did the majority of those, and she is in the lead on that contest. Okay, so that is going to run till next Friday, and invite all of your friends, all of your sub lists, everybody you got. We are growing this group and sharing great information with each other and supporting each other. And I just appreciate you guys and love you so much. Thank you for sticking it out with me. And I will talk to you tomorrow when we have Barry Ennis, who is an expert on virtual classes, and also he travels internationally and helps to set up studios, so different types of studios, especially cycle studios. And he is going to be on as my guest tomorrow. Hopefully I can get him on the split screen and we don't have to do the phone thing where I'm just staring at the camera while the person on the phone is talking. You guys, love you. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.